I've always been a little outspoken, but there was definitely times that I sat back and didn't take the reins. And I learned from them that I did hold the power and I did have a voice and I should speak up.
Welcome to Working Women Mentor, a podcast that empowers everyday women like you, like me, to share and learn from life's mentor moments. I am your host, Rani Alfers, and in each episode, you will meet inspiring women that understand the power of recognizing mentor moments and how those moments can change it all. These fabulous women are here and ready to share it all with you. So let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to Working Women Mentor. Today we are talking all things plastic surgery, authenticity, and not being authentic, and mentor moments. We're going to meet Michelle Emmick. She's the editor-in-chief of Ask Us Beauty magazine. She's the co-founder of My Coach MD, and she has been in the plastic surgery industry for over 20 years, an executive turned business owner. Yeah, I mean, she's written a book, she has a magazine. This lady is doing it all, but she's doing it so she can really shine a light on others. And that's what this podcast is about. We're going to get some great tips today on plastic surgery. I mean, if you're thinking about it, no better place to go than Michelle. Thinking about women in their careers, what we're looking like, our appearance in this social media world. You're going to love this episode. Let's meet Michelle. Michelle Emmick, thank you so much for joining us today on Working Women Mentor. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so excited about today. Michelle, you have, 20 years in plastic surgery and a magazine and so much knowledge and your beautiful way that you shine a light on women out there. So being our guest today is very exciting for all of us.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Yeah, so I own a company called My Coach MD, and I've had that for the last 3 years. That stemmed off of 20 years working in the field of plastic surgery. I've had the opportunity to coach thousands of patients, and I always say I'm on the front of the house, not on the back. I'm not the doctor. I have a lot of respect for doctors, but I'm really the person that's the front line, that's educating them and supporting them through their cosmetic journey. I've done that, and that's really been my field of expertise. In 2019, I wrote a book called Blue Collar Beauty, Confessions of a Plastic Surgery Coach. It was very well received. And I knew that I wanted to do a larger platform. I thought, how can I get this message out? Because I really wanted people to have shine a different light on plastic surgery. I think what we see out there in the media is a picture that's not necessarily what I had seen through my 20 years. It was more of an aesthetic that I don't think women were trying to achieve. You know, the six-pack abs and the no cellulite, it just wasn't realistic. And that was not the person I was seeing. And so I really wanted to open people's eyes to the beautiful stories that come with having an aesthetic procedure and how it can make someone look and feel their best. So we said, let's take that piece and let's encompass all things beauty and wellness and really allow women out there really to define beauty on their own terms. And so I started a magazine and we launched that in August, and it's just been a dream come true.
That is so exciting. And there's so many different elements of what you do. It really benefits all of us because when I think of plastic surgery, I've got a lot of questions about it. And I'm sure everyone you've encountered does as well.
I get asked a lot, believe me. I mean, I can't go anywhere. In fact, anytime I talk about the magazine, it always kind of shifts back to plastic surgery because people are fascinated by it, which I understand. It's a fascinating industry.
Especially when you write a book called Confessions of Plastic Surgery Coach. I mean, that tells me that you know the ins and outs and that you have some fun stories behind the scenes.
Yes, I say the good, bad, and ugly. There's a little bit of everything in there.
Well, you touched on, it's not always what it looks like out there, but that passion that you have for transparency in the beauty industry, I assume this is what started your journey with My Coach MD. How did that actually begin, and how does that passion for the transparency really guide your company?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. For me, everything has always been about the patient experience, and having spent so many years, I've seen so many people come in having no idea what they were coming in for, or even walking out, maybe scheduling something they weren't ready for. There's a lot of pieces that go into having a great experience, not just outcome. And so for me, when I would meet with someone, I really wanted to make sure we covered all the bases, whether it was emotionally, physically, financially, and make sure that they're set up for success. And so that was something that's very passionate on my end. And then I think that evolved to, we're so inundated with paid influencers and marketing, and nobody really knows what's out there. I mean, when I started in this industry, plastic surgery used to be really taboo. Not a lot of people talked about it. Now, I saw something recently from the Aesthetic Society that the consumers have spent more than $9 billion on surgical and non-surgical procedures. It's crazy because now you've got doctors doing TikToks and IG Reels and, there's hiring influencers. I mean, people don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. So I thought if we can get people in front of the real influencers, that's why we feature in the magazine. We have cosmetic plastic surgeons, dermatologists, we have cosmetic dentists, we have mental health therapists, because that's a whole piece that not a lot of people talk about. It really always stems back to the patient experience. I want people to be so happy when they had something done, and especially because they're making an investment in themselves.
And so your company comes in and give me an idea of what that experience is like working with you. So if I am thinking, I saw a beautiful symmetrical face on Instagram and I'm thinking, I need to tweak something on mine. And do I seek you out? What is the first step for me when I'm thinking of plastic surgery?
We always say that it starts with a conversation. So we'll get on the phone and we'll just chat, usually for about 15, 20 minutes, just to kind of get to know each other. And then we'll set up a Zoom call. And then through that 45-minute call, we will go through, for me, everything always comes down to asking questions. So it's finding out what your needs and goals are, your time frame, your budget, because people have questions. Do they want surgery, non-surgical, surgical, talking about this, specifically questions to set them up for success, questions to ask the doctor. Sometimes they don't know doctors in their area. So if we don't have some that we particularly work with, we'll do the research and really just kind of hold their hand through the process. We can do that right on the front end, or we can carry that all the way through post-operatively and really just, like I said, be there, that person to hold their hand through the process.
I read an article recently entitled Brazilian Butt Lift Gone Bad. And it was this awful article about the surge in Brazilian butt lifts and how essentially they were saying many doctors were doing them in Florida that weren't specialists in this area. And it was a terrible tale of what went wrong for this young lady. And
that's a fact.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
You've probably heard of this. Yeah.
That's a fact.
I read that. And I think it was like the $6,000 butt or something. And it caught my eye because as women, especially coming out of this Zoom couple of years we've all been in, there is a surge right now in plastic surgery. We've been looking at ourselves on a Zoom for 2 years. And
right.
I think in the workplace, now that we re-enter and we're considering some of these procedures, do you have any advice for what to think about before going back to work, or when to time that, or what that's like in the professional world?
I would say hire a coach. And I say that because really the main thing is educate yourself. It's very easy to talk to, I always say it's easy to talk to your friends, sister who had it done, or so-and-so knows a doctor, or, oh, this doctor has X amount of followers and I've seen his before and afters. That's not good enough. You really have to make sure that you cover all your bases. I talk about this too. It's like people hire coaches for everything. And why is this any different? If you're about to spend thousands of dollars on yourself and make essentially a life-altering change, you should have all the facts. If you're not going to hire a coach, and obviously that's fine. I was just joking, but I mean, that is what we do. That's the purpose of it.
Sure.
But just educate yourself, ask the questions, find out about the doctor, find out about the practice, make sure that you're setting yourself up for a good experience. Don't make your decision on price. That's a big one. And don't make your decision on emotion. You really got to take your time. I see a lot of times, and again, I've worked in this industry for a long time, so I know people go in and it is a business. That's what I want people to know. It's a business. So they are looking at key performance indicators, how many people called, how many showed, how many booked. There's analytics that go into this. So people tend to go in and they are getting excited, and then they make that decision and they haven't really thought through all the pieces. And you really have to make sure that you cross all your T's and dot your I's before you take that final step.
I love that you say that, because we are looking at it from an emotional side as the consumer, right? We're thinking, how do we look better? What do I need to do? And that's all we're thinking of. But you're right.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the equation, while hopefully you are with a specialist, hopefully you have vetted them and asked the right questions, but they also are running a business. We all are in business, right? So I think remembering that is an
Absolutely.
important element of actually looking for a place to find a doctor that can work with you and your specialty needs.
It's just to keep people aware that it is a business. That's not a bad thing. I mean,
No,
hey, they should get compensated for their work. There's no question, but just understand that it is very easy to get caught up in the emotional side of it and not really look at all the important
I
pieces.
agree. I absolutely agree with you, and I think yeah, there's nothing wrong with them making money, as they
Nope,
should.
they deserve it. Hey,
They
they went to school for a lot of years.
Yes.
They deserve it.
Yeah, especially when they do a great job. I know that we touched briefly on the social media piece, but how do you really feel about that influence on beauty standards today? And what's your projection in the next few years on how that will evolve, Michelle?
I think being a woman, and we all fall prey to it. I mean, it's easy to, right? But I think with what we're trying to do is put out there again that our mission for the magazine, for Ask Us Beauty magazine, is for women to define beauty on their own terms. I think that we need to drive the narrative, and that's so important. And we need more images of different shapes and sizes and colors, and really making sure that we're taking the lead, because I don't know what the stats are specifically, but in the beauty business, it's got to be 90% female consumers, something along those lines. Don't quote me on it. I don't know exactly, but I think we set the standard. We have to be the ones out there that are driving that narrative. That's really what it comes down to. What I see, and I think that this has happened, especially now because the younger generation is so much more comfortable on video and social media. I still think people are looking for authenticity. I know it's what I want. I know it's what our readers want. And so I think that we are turning a corner. I feel like people are on camera more. They're forced to be. So people aren't afraid to hop on the camera with, their hair in a bun and no makeup or whatever that might be. We always say we have no problem with a filter. Filters are fun and so forth. But, let's get real. We can't be afraid to show ourselves, our real selves either.
You're right. And authenticity is not going anywhere at this point. And it's an interesting prediction. I almost wonder if that plastic surgery will have a decline at some point based on everyone letting their hair in a bun and their pimple on their face and their, a little extra weight around their middle or whatever
I
it
don't know.
is.
Maybe we might end up just becoming avatars, and like we know nobody ever even sees us.
Well, there's that. That's right. We can just, no need.
That's a whole nother.
Yes. That's a whole nother
podcast.
topic. Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about that, you're right. It's like they may not see us again. We can just paint the version of ourselves that we want. We'll authentically create our own avatar.
Absolutely. That's where I think the future's going.
Exactly. When you think of cosmetic surgery and you think of the career path that you've had and you think of the people that have been along your journey, tell us about some mentor moments and some advice that you may want to share with others out there that you've received at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had some great mentors. I think something that kind of sticks out to me that was important to me that would be, a takeaway for the listeners is it was probably 2008, 2009. So we're going back a little bit. But I worked with two women in particular that they were amazing. And we would stay late, stay after hours. We'd work on projects. And, when you're in that corporate environment, you're on every committee and it's out there. And I know for me, I've always been really that overachiever. And the one woman in particular used to say to me, I would get frustrated on certain things not changing. And she would say, "You hold the power." And I never understood what she meant at the time. Like I was in my early 20s. I'm like, what is she talking about? And I would even ask her, I'm like, what do you mean by that? She's like, you have to figure it out. And it used to make me so mad because I'm like, what I understood as I got older was that I was the one in control, and I was in a leadership position in that organization. And when I say leader, someone that people willingly followed. And I had helped build the company, and I had more experience than anyone on the entire, senior leadership team. And my voice was important. I didn't have to be the CEO or the main person in charge. That my voice mattered. I've always been a little outspoken, but there was definitely times that I sat back and didn't take the reins. And I learned from them that I did hold the power and I did have a voice and I should speak up. And I think that comes with maturity, emotional maturity, and so forth. But that was one thing, I think. And another one I would say with the other woman, I always loved this, and it's something that always stuck with me, is that, again, we used to just stay up late and we'd work on things. And I would struggle because I was really not that great with like Excel spreadsheets and, putting together charting and stuff. And I remember she'd say to me, honey, you don't have to be good at that. She's like, Michelle, you're good at a lot of things. You got a lot of gifts and a lot of talents. You hire somebody to do that for you. And I was like, she's right. Because I came from that mindset that I had to be great at everything. And I really didn't. So I think over the years, as I've aged, I have no problem with saying like, I'm terrible at that. Like, that's not my thing.
Good for
That's
you.
not my jam.
Good for you. That's a
Yeah.
huge leap, is when you realize that you don't have to be great at everything. And I really believe it allows us to shine the light on the other people who are good at these things and encourage them and bring them up to the level that they should be at too.
Absolutely.
It's almost selfish in some instances to try to do everything. Let other people shine. Let other people do well. It's so important.
Find the people that are great and build that team around you. And again, I felt very fortunate to have them as mentors to kind of guide me. But I think a lot of young people starting their career, you're always in that proving mode. Let me prove myself. All I wanted was to climb the ladder, and I was working hard. I kept climbing and climbing, which I always say when I got to the top, I didn't like what I saw, which is why I went off to do my own thing, which I think a lot of people feel that way. But yeah, you don't have to prove yourself. Just work hard and stay in your lane and do what you're great at and learn from others, but you don't have to be the only one driving.
That's great advice. And I'm sure you're still learning a lot, because you launched your Ask
Oh my
Us
gosh,
Beauty
every day.
magazine, and you were interviewing and talking with so many amazing women through your magazine. So I'd love to hear more about that. You had Layla Ali on the cover of the most recent one.
Yeah.
What a wonderful experience for you. What are you?
It's a dream come true.
Yes, it's amazing.
It's a dream come true. I used to fly like 48 weeks out of the year. I was the crazy person. I had 2 suitcases. I would come home, drop one off, pick up the other one. All those years I would spend at the airport, and I would always get my magazines. And I would be like, oh, it's Thursday. The new magazines are coming out. So doing this really and getting a chance to meet all these amazing women has just, it's been a dream come true. I've always been a storyteller. And I think that when I wrote my book, it was such a phenomenal experience that I wanted to continue telling stories. And I realized I was pretty good at it. I don't claim to be, winning a Pulitzer or anything, but I know that I always have heart behind everything I do. And that's why people have connected with me. So I said, I want to share other people's stories. And we really mix up the magazine with, we have celebrities. Like I said, we have doctors, we have everyday women, we have some beautiful pieces. The magazine starts with We Salute You, which is highlighting women who serve. And the back end of the magazine is Timeless Beauty, and it's focused on women over 70. So those are like some of the special pieces we have in every issue. We have a piece called Small Town Big Heart, which is focusing on women in small towns around the United States. I think a lot of times we get so focused on New York City and California or Miami or Beverly Hills or whatever that we forget all the wonderful places
in between.
There's
so much in between.
So that's so much in between. So this issue we featured Madison, West Virginia, Madison, Mississippi. We started the first issue with my hometown, which is in upstate New York. But I grew up in a small town, and I decided that I'm going to create a magazine that I would like to read. I want because I'm like, I know the consumer. I am the consumer. So let's have these pieces that are really heartfelt, and they've resonated. This is a little interesting fact that out of all the stories we wrote over the celebrities, Small Town Big Heart is the #1 read article, and it's been that for both issues so far.
So people want to know about these small towns. I mean, we all know about them, or we all think we know about New York City, Beverly Hills, everywhere else, but it's the small town that has the charm, isn't it? It
is. Mm-hmm. And we are, some magazines cater to the affluent. We cater to the everyday, the everyday consumer. That's who we are. We say, we can carry an expensive handbag, and we also go to Target and Walmart, and we're
we carry that handbag in Target and Walmart, and we don't care.
We carry the handbag into the Wallies. Yes, we do.
Exactly. It's like it does not have to be reserved for lunch out. It can go to Target and Walmart. It does not
have to be the luncheon. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's just, it's just not, like I said, I grew up in a small town. Like I can mingle and do what I need to do. But at the end of the day, you will probably see me in no makeup and a bun in my hair.
And that works too. Now we're back to authenticity. You've got this nailed.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I think that coming from your industry and the multifaceted approach that you have for sharing it with other women, you've just knocked it out the park with the broad variety of content that you have in your magazine. It's truly relevant to both big and small, and it's a wonderful publication. How can everyone find you, Michelle? Because they will be looking.
Yes, absolutely. They can find me on Instagram at The Plastic Surgery Coach, at Ask Us Beauty Magazine. So I'm on both of those. I'm on LinkedIn. Our website is askusbeautymagazine.com. We just started a subscription membership. So we're doing all kinds of live events that start this month. I'm kicking off the first event, and this is for our members. It's Plastic Surgery 101. And then we're going to be having all of the plastic surgeons that we feature inside the magazine. They'll be doing different pieces. Our celebrities, we've got some, on this January issue is just amazing. It is just amazing. I keep saying like that every time, but I'm like, oh no, this one's big. We just ask everybody to read it. The digital is free, so there's no cost to read it. I would also say if anyone's listening that is looking to get in front of the everyday consumer, this is a platform to do it. We may not be big, the big media of the magazine that's in the grocery store, but we have a community of women that are, that are consumers that are out there looking.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a trusted advisor. And that's essentially what we're providing them.
And sometimes it's not about, all the time it's not about impressions. I think we've gotten away from that. It's about the community. It's about engagement. Anyone who has an Instagram account or, social media account completely understands that.
It's like, oh, if you have X amount of followers and you have this and you have that and how many views? And it's like, you know what? Anybody can have that. Everything we live in is so smoke and mirrors now. It's like, really, it is. You learn more about that the more deeper you dive into it. We really want to have a solid community of engaged consumers, followers that really are looking to us as a trusted expert. And that's what we're putting in front of them. So it's something we're super proud of.
You should be. You really should be. Michelle, you've given us some great advice today on how to vet a plastic surgeon, your first steps in that journey if you're considering surgery. And I really appreciate that. Your mentor moments and introducing us to your magazine. We all need a little beauty. We all need a connection. And we found that today with you. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. I hope you'll walk away feeling inspired and are thinking of how a mentor moment can help you or someone you know. In case you haven't hit the follow button to subscribe to this show, please do so. And if you love the episode, I'd really appreciate a review. You see, this review helps Apple or Spotify or whatever platform you're listening to us on know that other women just like you want to learn about the show, and it'll help us spread the word. Let's connect on Instagram at Working Women Mentor or at Rani Alfers. You can find all episodes online at ranialfers.com/podcast and the ability to send an audiogram of your favorite mentor moments. And we respond to everyone. I truly can't wait to hear from you. Check back weekly for new episodes, and cheers until the next episode.